Welcome to the Truth Over Facts podcast. I'm your host, Dylan, and my co host, Ronnie.
What's up, Dill baby?
What's up, big dog?
I thought we were supposed to be dealing with the cleanup with this whole mess crap, but now we got more of a mess on our hands. Ever since this derailment's happened, there's just been more shit that's
Yeah,
just
there's
to
like
come.
two other places. I think I was reading some on Twitter where they found like a pipe bomb on one of the train tracks or something like that. I
Yes,
thought,
I heard
whatever
that
happened to the good
too.
old days where people
Yeah.
just trying to crush some pennies and shit at the zoo train? You remember the zoo train?
Hell yeah, the zoo train.
Everybody, yeah, right. Everybody be crushing pennies on them. Now it's pipe bombs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dog. Shit's get out of hand. It's like every day there's a chemical fire now. You got more trains falling off the tracks.
What's next? Sharks with laser beams attached to their freaking head.
Anything is possible, dog. We're dealing with UFOs. Whatever you could think of, dog. It's coming
Right.
for us.
Like I said, I keep telling everybody, it's gonna keep getting worse and worse and worse and shit. It's kind of like the McDonald's menu and shit. Like it's just the same shit over and over again, but it's just all bad for you. But I didn't say that McDonald's. I like your chicken McNuggets, even if they are bird beaks and bird toes and shit.
Is that what you think they
That
are?
spicy buffalo sauce is good.
Is that what you think they are?
Um,
Is that what you know they are?
I usually max out. I usually get 40 chicken nuggets.
Mmm.
I'm like dying the next day, but it's good drunk food.
Yeah, it is, dog.
We're gonna start it off with the story that I had heard a couple of years ago and shit.
So we're gonna start off where we left off, what we
Right.
were going to get into, but we paused because it was really late at night and I was already yawning. I was pretty damn tired. You look like you're getting pretty damn tired.
Yeah, you gotta center yourself on the screen.
Oh, I don't want to. I want Mitch to be in the screen though, dog. I want Mitch. He's done so much for us. He's put
Yeah, so is
Ukrainian.
this guy.
He's put Ukraine above everybody, in Ohio, in East Palestine, the Palestinians in Ohio. He's putting Ukraine above them, and so is Joe Biden because Joe Biden decided to make a secret trip to Ukraine today on this
Right before Ohio.
Monday evening. Yes. Yeah.
It's not like they want to kill anybody, right? Kill Americans.
Yeah.
Remember what happened to America first? Now it's like America dead ass last.
It's Ukraine first.
Yeah.
Slava Ukraine first. We're gonna pay for your pensions. And
Yeah, now we gotta
everybody
pay
in
for their
East
pensions and shit.
Palestine, Ohio, you guys can just deal with the pain of being an American.
It's like, did America even make it a year without starting another proxy war? No,
No. The
no, not even
military
a year.
industrial complex has quotas to fill, dog. They got weapons to
But
make. They need to stay running and
we
operating.
we don't make Big Macs anymore. We make Patriot missiles.
That's right, dog.
But yeah, start off on this story that we were going to talk about last week, our last episode. It was about, I had heard the story probably about 6 years ago. It was about an ICE agent that shot himself. I don't know. It's the internet, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
what is real nowadays and shit. But as soon as I read it, it sounded real.
So
But it was
is there like a unique background about this ICE agent?
no, it happened in New York supposedly, and like he committed suicide at the end of a pier or some shit like that. And when like they came to investigate it, they found a suicide note on him, and he used his own gun, service gun, to shoot himself. But he had left a suicide note, and I'll read it. The beginning of it starts off: the America I grew up in and cherished has been murdered by its own federal government. Our Constitution has become meaningless and our laws politicized so badly they are no longer enforced except for political purposes, the note said. Our elected officials are, to a person, utterly corrupt and completely devoid of any love or respect for the country which pays them. Uh, to them, everything is about getting and keeping power and making illicit money from backroom deals. I was hired to enforce the law. He's an ICE agent.
Mm-hmm.
To capture and deport people who come to this country against our laws. But now, if I dare do that, I face being suspended or fired because our president refuses to faithfully execute the duties of his office. Instead, I come to work each day and collect a paycheck twice a month for intentionally doing little to nothing. I cannot and will not be a party to this fraud, to this usurpation of the law, or to the despicable politicians betraying our nation. In the suicide note, the officer revealed what he claimed are terrifying plans the feds have been finalizing. Okay, we all know the feds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how patriotic they are.
Oh, yes.
If the American people knew what this government is planning, they would rise up and overthrow it. That's like sentence number one on it.
Mm-hmm.
If I or anyone else in the federal government revealed what is coming, we would be killed anyway. So now I will reveal what I know. We in the federal law enforcement have been drilling for several years to control riots and uprisings from a coming financial collapse and widespread bank failures. The drills involved life-size images of American men, even women and children, whom we are told to shoot for practice and to get used to it.
To numb.
Mm-hmm.
To numb them, yes.
We have been told that the economy is terminally ill and will fail in 2016. So we were kind of a couple years off.
Pause for a second. So this is starting to sound Hitler-esque, like with the SS, because that's pretty much what the SS did.
Right.
Well, they built they killed so much that they had an intolerance for
being numb to it.
Well, yeah, they had a tolerance for the the killing that they were doing.
Right. And this is 2016, so like you got to remember 2016 was 8 years after the financial crisis, so, and they didn't solve anything.
Mm-hmm.
They just papered over it, and then they put all that debt that the corporations and the American people had and put it on the national credit card. So we switched from private debt to public debt.
Does it say when in 2016 this was?
I think it was in May. So it was during the election that was going on.
Oh, okay.
That's why they were like, because Donald Trump was rising at that point, and like they could see like if Trump gets in, like the FBI and shit and all ICE kind of
he's gonna blow the lid off of it all.
Yeah, exactly. Like the system was starting to fail from like 2014 to 16. I think the last time they did something called quantitative easing, where they just print more money to keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
That was like 2015 or 14, something like that. And then the Federal Reserve started raising interest rates in 2015 as Trump was getting into office.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people remember, but Trump was saying like the economy is a big giant debt bubble and stuff like that as he was running as president. He said if, the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, everything comes crashing down and shit. That's why he was like pissed off, because he's like, you didn't raise any interest rates for Obama, but then all of a sudden I get in here. Now all of a sudden you want to start jacking them up, and there's so much debt accumulated that it'll just blow up. That's how the financial system works.
So the government was looking for the right fall guy.
Exactly right.
Trump came into the picture.
Yeah,
and they're like,
when,
yes, we'll let you be president.
Yeah, and not even that.
You can take the fall, and you can look like a tyrant and a piece of shit.
They did the exact same thing to Herbert Hoover. Herbert Hoover, he didn't want to become president in like 1928 or whatnot, but people were begging him, just like Obama and shit. Like they didn't do anything. Like the rich were just ripping everybody off during the 1920s. There was so much fraud and shit like that. Well, then all of a sudden Herbert Hoover became president for 9 months, and they crashed the economy on him. The bankers did, because they started raising interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
Back then you had margin debt that was at an all-time high. That's why it's at an all-time high now. This is how the system works. Oh, Trump's an outsider, so we'll crash the economy on him and blame him. They did the same shit to Herbert Hoover. He wasn't a politician and stuff like that. He was actually a humanitarian stuff. I think he won 4 Nobel Peace Prizes or something like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Herbert Hoover.
Yeah.
But that was the one thing during the Great Depression and shit. He tried to actually help people, but the problem was is he didn't bail out the banks.
Mm-hmm.
Like Herbert Hoover let 1/3 of them fail under him, and then he did such a shitty job, and people back then were just as dumb as they are today, and they're like, you were supposed to save us. Well, so much for that, you know. So then they elected FDR.
All these peace prizes and journalist awards are all fraudulent now.
Yeah,
They're
like
just they're no good. They're not valid.
Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize, but he's also had killed hundreds of thousands of people with drones and shit like
Mm-hmm.
that. But well, you know, killing innocent people. But anyways, I'll read it back to the top of this note. We have been told that the economy is terminally ill and will fail in 2016. We are also told the banks are all insolvent and the FDIC doesn't have nearly enough funds to bail out depositors because depositors are unsecured creditors, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
We are told these events are unavoidable and it is imperative that the government survive when people rise up over this, right? If you can't feed yourself, all the ATMs stop spitting bills, all the banks start to collapse and stuff like that. And essentially, just like the US dollar just goes like completely to zero. Like it ain't worth shit.
Yeah.
It's not worth it now. But when the collapse takes place, detention camps created under the FEMA Rex 84 program. It's also called the King Alfred
Mm-hmm.
conspiracy theory, where Rex 84 was created in the 1980s. Says here, Rex 84 was a program in the 1980s to house illegal aliens whom we were going to deport will instead be used to imprison American citizens whom the government feels constitute a threat. Threat,
Mm-hmm.
meaning free.
Yeah.
American citizens will be rounded up without warrants and imprisoned without trial for God knows how long. These camps have been equipped to carry out Hitler scale killings, an actual purge of American citizens by the very government which they themselves created and paid for. I cannot be a party to this. And then that's essentially it. And then he essentially blew his brains out at the end of this pier. But let's see.
So it sounds like even if this guy had a choice to walk away, he probably still was gonna get killed.
Yeah, because that's how that, like I said before in the
He
previous
was in too deep. He knew too much. He was in too
yeah,
deep.
and that's just it. It's either kind of like how you said, like with the mass psychosis of like Hitler and stuff like that. Either you go along with it, or we'll just kill you and your whole fucking family, kind of
Yeah.
crap. And it's
And
just like it's better to be at the side of the devil than in his path. So
yeah.
like the guilt couldn't he couldn't deal with the guilt and stuff like that.
Yes,
It's like
fall in line. Fall in line.
yeah, it's like the FBI is largest purchaser of ammunition. You know that?
No.
Yeah, the FBI. The FBI is one of the largest purchasers of ammunition in the world. It's
Really?
just it,
I thought it was the IRS now. Ha!
yeah, well yeah, now it is. But yeah, this note was on Friday, May 16th, 2016. So right at the height of the election and shit.
Yeah, yeah.
So like if it was gonna fail on Trump, like they had a backup system. The government always has a backup system. Rex 84 is where they round people up and they use like a codex of like preppers and shit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was talking about. I think on one of those episodes was where what was the general's name for Iran Contra? Oliver North. General
I'm not
Oliver.
sure.
Yeah, General Oliver North. He was
Are
the
you
one who.
sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. He was the one who created Rex 84, and he was under testimony
Hmm.
for the Iran Contra deal. And a senator had heard about Rex 84 from an article, and he confronted General Oliver North in the hearings and shit. And the head honcho for the actual Congress or the oversight committee for the Iran Contra deal told him, like, Mr. Senator, don't talk about that kind of crap because I'll talk to
Hmm.
you about it behind closed doors. Because it was like, so essentially that I forget I think it was like Senator Cooper or some shit like that. He was just kind of like, so it is real. So like you will kill Americans and round up Americans and stuff when shit hits the fan. kind of like how we did with Japanese internment camps and
Oh,
stuff.
I do remember that. Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was kind of like a big giant conspiracy at the time, but then it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, no, the government really will like do like warrantless searches and stuff like that. Anything that'll deem you as a threat to the system, kind of like how it found all those January 6 people and shit through face recognition kind of technology and stuff like that. You know,
Apparently,
and
there's over 40,000 hours of
right,
video
right.
that was released to Fox News's Tucker Carlson
Yeah, I
uh,
just saw a video,
to
like a little
review.
snippet of it, that there was a guy with the earpiece who was pushing people in to the Capitol. And a lady confronted the guy, like, why are you pushing me into this place? Like, why are
Yeah,
you pushing? But at the same time, dude, it's like you fucking know exactly what you're doing there. It's not like you're going there to play patty cake with Pence and shit. You're gonna hang them. You know what I mean?
there's
But
also a video on Twitter that I saw of these DC police officers on a bike patrol go on, I believe it was January 6th. They were riding through town and they came up to this group of what looked to be just normal civilians. And they identified themselves as cops, as
mhm.
federal agents. And the cop was like, you guys should do a better job at hiding that.
Oh, the guy called out the cop.
He called it the feds, yeah. The
Oh,
cop did, yeah.
well, that's just it. Like, it's kind of like what the guys who tried to kidnap Governor Whitmore or whatnot in Minnesota, or was that Michigan?
Yeah, Michigan. Yeah, Governor
Yeah, there was
Whitmer.
like two of them and shit, and they got entrapment because all the rest of them were like FBI informants and shit like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, we didn't even want to do it. We just kind of went
Hmm.
along. And they're like, well, there's 11 of us that went with it, so now you're guilty and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the government has always had these backup programs where they will literally just you can make you disappear in the middle of the goddamn night. Like they'll wipe out your social security number. They'll make sure you'll never even existed.
Yeah.
But the whole entire suicide note and stuff like that, I had read that back in like 2017, I think, and I was like, oh yeah, because I love finance and I knew that the credit bubble was like blowing up. Every time there's so much credit in the system, all that debt,
Yeah.
the minute they start to raise interest rates, it all implodes and shit.
Hmm.
So I knew
Yes.
like the minute that they started raising interest rates on Trump, just like Herbert Hoover, they did to him, it was all going to implode. And I knew they would blame him. And I knew that everybody hated Trump, similar how they hated Herbert Hoover. You're not a politician. What are you doing and shit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole system is predicated on fear. And if you don't understand it, you're going to be fearful of it. But even like in 2015 and 16, the economy was taking a shit. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then Trump came in, and everybody was saying, "Oh, the stock market's going to crash once Trump's in it," and shit like that. I said, "No, he just got there." Herbert Hoover was in office for only 9 months, and then the crash hit. How the hell can you blame him for being on the job for 9 months?
Hmm.
It was really what the hell was his name? Um, the president right before him. It
Woodrow
wasn't
Wilson.
Calvin. No, it was Calvin Coolidge. Calvin Coolidge was president for 8 years, I think, or seven, because he took over for Warren Hardy.
Oh, yes.
Warren Hardy had died.
Hardy Boys, baby.
Yeah, President Hardy had died in like the early 1920s because he was under a scandal for selling oil dunes or oil domes, I think.
To the Rockefellers.
Essentially, probably something like similar to
I
that.
don't know. I don't quote me on that. That's probably
No,
false.
but
That's
he
false
did something like
information.
that. There were these oil domes for like reserves, and he was like selling the land to his buddies or some shit like that. And it was like at the time in the 1920s, it was like the
Yeah.
biggest
Oh, I know. It sounds like
eruptions.
building contracts that Joe was selling to his brother Jim.
Yeah, it's just like that. Or
Oh,
the Bushes.
ain't that some shit?
Yeah, so it's been going on for 100 years. But Calvin Coolidge took over, and he just allowed the credit bubble to just get completely out of control. and then he lost to Herbert Hoover. Hoover took over, and the first thing that Herbert Hoover did as soon as he got in office is he was
Vacuum the
calling all
White
of his
House.
buddies, huh?
Vacuum the White House.
Yeah, no,
Down.
Hoover called all of his buddies on Wall Street and asked how everything was, and they're like, "Oh, everything's fine," because he knew they were raising interest rates because debt was at an all-time high in like three different times, right?
Yeah.
1929, debt was at an all-time high.
Great Depression.
1981, debt was at like an all-time high, and now all of a sudden it's at an all-time high again.
2016 or 2008.
Yep, that's when it was at another all-time high. So every single time, it's like when we were all hanging out with our buddies and shit like that, I'd be like, Trump supporters be like, dude, like the unemployment rate is so low. And I'm like, dude, that's terrible. Like, you don't understand. Like, throughout history, the lowest unemployment rate is always followed by the highest because all it takes is a little shock to the system and the whole thing collapses.
A little bit of inflation, a little bit of over circulation of the money.
Mm-hmm. Printing our way out of COVID or,
Yeah.
the Mandela.
Out of every economical disaster that America's ever succumbed to.
Yeah, we just print our way out. It just makes everybody who has money that much poorer. And
eventually, that's all going to come to a head.
Right.
And right now, we are at that. We are facing that blockade.
Yeah. I mean,
and there's no going through that, dog.
Yeah, we went to a bar this weekend and talking to a couple of our buddies and shit like that. And our buddy Josh is like, dude, like inflation's getting out of control. I was like, what do you think I've been telling you for the last 2 years? But no,
I mean, well, they've been printing money for the last 2 years.
For the last 20 years.
Okay, yeah, so the more money you keep, so it's just never ending. It's going to be never ending inflation.
Yeah, that's just it. And now we hit the Rubicon where like now it's into everyday goods.
And then a lot of people are like, oh, gas has gone down this winter. Well, it's gone down because it's a winter blend.
Yeah.
It's not because, anything special is going on in the economy.
Right. And that's just it. Like, when people were like, shit would never happen underneath Trump and the oil prices, I said, you're right. But like all that money printing happened on Trump's watch. Biden just took it over. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I use this as a primary example. Who gave you bigger stimulus checks? You got like what, 3,000 from Trump and you only got 2,000 from Biden. Which one's more? 3. Okay. So he started it, then he lost. And then they continued the process of just trying to print their way out of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why, like, in what was it, 2021, Bitcoin hit like $65,000 for one of them. It's not the fact that Bitcoin is going up, it's that the dollar is dropping.
And the government wants to get in on Bitcoin and regulate it.
They can't regulate
that's crypto.
Yeah, what they want to do is they want to come up with their own.
Yeah. Well, they are going to come out with their own because apparently, according to the chat GPT, everything's going to come to a head March 15th or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that. Where it's like, when's everything going to crash?
Yeah, so then the U.S. is going to have their own digital currency, and
right.
I mean, we already have credit scores, so
right.
we're just going to have another. We're just going to have another credit
score.
Social credit score. So if you're not down with the wokeness, you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
If you're not down with Drag Queen story time, you're not down with Drag Queen story time, you're not getting paid.
Nope.
If you're not down with a trans man looking you dead in the eyes, looking like he's about to cry with his glitter over his eyes, and he's saying, I care about you.
Yeah.
I love you.
Mr. Garrison.
I needs you. I needs all of yous.
No, I think it'll be kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall, where he pulls that big ass red gumball out of his nose.
Yeah. See you at the party, Richter.
Give the people air. But that's what it'll be like, where they can just shut the shit off on you.
Yeah, but you know what, though? Damn it. I don't even think people are going to have to worry about Trump this next term, this next election. You know why? Because Nikki Haley's stepping up That bad bitch.
Yeah, because she knows what the fuck she's doing.
Yeah,
Wasn't she the governor of like South Carolina or
she
some
was the
bullshit?
governor of South Carolina, dog, and she got
Yeah.
rid of she took down the Confederate flag. Uh, any other highlights? I
Other than
can't
that,
really
no.
think
Like
of
Nikki
that. And then
Haley's gonna
she was
get
in the
killed.
UN, but
I don't mean like
yeah,
she's gonna
whoever's
get
do.
killed
Yeah,
physically. I'm
like
just
she's
saying.
gonna get dominated in the race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At this point,
Uh,
it's DeSantis, I think, and if Trump tries to do it, but I think Trump will just pull out at the last minute. I think he's just
whoever
gonna milk
whoever
people
is
for more money.
donating to these like parties, Nikki Haley, who else is there? John Brennan. I think John Brennan's running if he's running. Whoever's donating to these people, you guys are stupid. Like
John
seriously.
Brennan, the CIA guy.
Yeah, John Brennan, the guy that wrote a book, turned on Trump and wrote a book about him, about
Well,
how
that's what I
shitty
mean.
a
It's like
President Trump is, or shitty President Trump is. Yeah, that guy.
they're
Who's
all
gonna vote
old.
for that guy? He's such a moron.
They're all old. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
It's like,
The old
why are,
balls.
yeah, I
Old
always say this.
wrinkly balls.
I always say this. Why is it every single time there's a crisis in America, why do we always rely on the one generation that can't figure out direct deposit and shit? Every time. Like, can you help me send an email? No, you dumb bitch. You're too old to even do it. Why are you even trying to do that? Like,
They've got paid handlers, dog.
well, that's just it. Like Kamala Harris. I haven't seen Kamala Harris in 2 years. Like, where has she been?
She was just in Germany, dog.
Yeah, they told you that, but
She
did you
was just
see it?
say I think it was Germany. She was like, Russia has committed crimes against humanity.
Well, no shit. Did you see that one video of that reporter putting the who's the lead military guy?
Oh,
But
Mark Millie Vanilli.
no, not Mark Milley. It was somebody else for like the other government. Not Garland. He's like the AG, I think. But it was
Yeah,
something
Merrick
else where this
Garland.
the reporter was
Oh,
like,
Christopher Ray.
yeah, it might have been Christopher Wray or something like that. But the reporter, the journalist was kind of like, so NATO's like expanding their land, and you're saying that it's Russia that expanding it. And he's like, well, which one is it? He goes, well, NATO has been expanding all their bases around Russia. So if it was America, and he said like some sort of example kind of where it was like, if Russia put military bases in Mexico, would you allow that, or would you not find that like odd? And they're like, yeah, but this is different. It's Ukraine. And they're like, and the reporter is like, they're not even part of NATO.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
dumbass.
Yeah. So you got him
Gosh,
in the
dude, why can't I wish reporters could just be like dumbass, like
yeah,
Red
and that's
Fawn in
just
that.
it. And this military guy is just trying to lie his ass off. And it's like, this is what I mean. Like, this is part of that fourth turning crap where like the lies and shit like that no longer work because like it's human nature to learn from the past one, like another 9/11 kind of shit, Iraq war, where it was just a big giant proxy war for like the military industrial complex. Now they're trying to start another one. And it's just like Americans no longer support anything that it does. Like fuck the Ukrainians. What about Ohio? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where you start to get the
What about Florida? What about Texas, Arizona, and South Carolina? And
right. I was just
what about the snow in Canada that's full of chemicals?
yeah,
Damn it!
the acid rain. But I was just reading or seeing kind of like Twitter and stuff like that. Lately in California, there's been like these train cars, just like the ones that blew up.
Yeah.
They're like right in the middle of like California's largest agriculture fields.
Oh,
Like,
great.
yeah, so California is like number one, I think, in nuts, like oats and shit like that,
Yeah.
walnuts and stuff like that. But like there's been these mysterious cargo trailers for trains just like in the middle of this like giant like fields and stuff like that where they produce all this food because like California is like the number one producer of agriculture food, different variety wise. So these people are like, what the hell are these doing here? Like, there's no, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like a setup. Like they're just putting this in all these agricultural farm areas just to blow it all up so they can like uh poison the food now and shit like that. But they already put pesticides on it. But what I'm saying
Hmm.
is like an Ohio situation in California. Imagine if that happened and it would carry across the whole United States. In the Ohio situation, it's just east of the Mississippi. So now they're trying to like figure out like, oh, well, if we do it in California, it'll carry across the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's just another way to distract people and shit like that. But what I'm saying is that if that actually does happen and I foretell it and saying like, oh, all of a sudden there's a couple of explosions in California, it's no longer a drill or an exercise. Like they're really trying to depopulate as quickly as fastly as possible.
Yes.
That
And they're
way they
not
can.
afraid to look stupid doing it because,
They're so
I
blatant.
can't help but think of how stupid our government is, and that is Republicans and Democrats. I mean, you look at Ohio. Yes, we have, chemical cars that are spilled over, blocking you know, the tr- the the track. So we need to get this track back up and running. So let's just do a controlled detonation of,
Yeah, and blow
some
it up.
chemicals. Let's release some harmful, toxins into the atmosphere, and
Hmm.
let's let our fellow Americans breathe it in and drink it and
But whatever,
bathe in it.
for being an administration that's so concerned with climate change and global warming, you sure as hell ain't doing shit about it.
Yeah, not at all. The
You know what I
turning the
mean?
other eye. You could have went and seen, your fellow Americans that could use you right about
Right.
now. But instead, you hop on Air Force One and just fly out to what was it?
Ukraine.
Yeah, Poland, and then go to Ukraine.
Yeah. I'll catch you on the way back, Ohio.
Yeah, yeah, catch you on the way back. Exactly.
And that's just it. Like, that's where you have, like, I keep bringing up the fourth turning all the time because that's kind of like the manifestation, the rising hatred and shit, where it's called the awakening, where like everybody no longer believes the bullshit to a point like, with the Iraq war, it was like if you brought up questions about it on 9/11, like you were deemed a conspiracy theorist and anti-American. Well, now they're trying to do the same shit again, and it's just like, all right, well, something ain't right here. You know what I mean? And it's called the awakening, where everybody starts to realize it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican, where they just don't give a shit no more. The governments don't. So the same thing happened during the Civil War. Same thing happened during World War II, right? Credit bubble
Hmm.
goes bust. They print a bunch of money. Then they tries to raise interest rates during the Depression. Boom, 1937 happened, and you had a bigger crash. And the only thing that got us out of that was Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor sucked, and I miss you.
Yeah, Ben Affleck sucked, and I miss you. But no, that's how the system works. Is they
I
allow this
put a
credit
I
bubble to
put a
get big.
jihad on you.
Yeah, that's
I
how the
put a
system has
jihad
always
on
worked.
you.
It just keeps repeating over and over and over again. It's just that they rely on the media to control it. I mean, they tried to control it in the 1930s and 40s and shit during World War II. That's why they call it propaganda and stuff like that. And they're trying to do it again. But like, what's bad is like Don Lemon recently just got like fired or whatnot for calling Nikki Haley like old and worn
Well,
out
she's
and
not
like
in her
out of her.
prime, yes.
Yeah, she's not in her prime.
Well, a lot
Shit's
of
bad.
a lot of his co-hosts took offense to that, dog.
Right, but they're hating on a gay dude, black gay dude, and now they're trying to cancel him. That's when you know shit's bad.
Yeah, shit's really bad. Shit's all fucked up, dog.
Right.
Cancel
Now they're
culture is
trying to cancel
canceling the
him.
cancel culture, dog.
But it's true, dude. Like
It's
he
fun to
said, like,
watch. It's fun
yeah,
to watch, yeah. Because
he
nobody
goes
really
like, oh,
likes
she's in
Don
her
Lemon.
50s, like she's out of her prime, and he goes like, it's scientifically proven that like a woman's prime is like her 20s and 30s, and he's like maybe pushing the 40s. That's maybe it. She's 50, she's out of her prime, and of course all the
Did
women's
did you
freaking out.
hear did you hear what Chris Cuomo wanted to do when he found out, like when he got fired from CNN?
Yeah, didn't he want to kill somebody or
He
kill
wanted to
himself?
kill everybody and shoot himself. What a fucking idiot.
Do it.
I
I would
guess.
I'm the type of guy where I'm like, prove it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, because they're part of the system, right? Like, what is he depressed about? He's a multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
Remember when he got
Oh,
COVID? He was like, I was so
I was in
cold,
my
I shattered my
basement. I
teeth.
was in my basement. I couldn't
Yeah,
leave.
I
I
chipped
couldn't
my
leave my
teeth.
house.
I chipped my
And then
teeth
some
in my
dude in
basement.
Central Park or whatever called his bitch ass out. You're not
Yeah.
supposed to be out here.
And
Fucking
it's just
idiot.
like it's all just a big giant mass psyop. They have to change the narrative and distract everybody. But they did it similar to the 1930s Great Depression. Like when people are so desperate, they no longer give a shit about what's really going on, right? Because you're struggling so much to a point you ain't got time to worry about what the government's
Let's not
doing and shit.
forget that they also abolished alcohol too.
Yeah. But who is all making all the money? All the politicians and bootleggers, right?
Damn straight, dog.
No.
The
How do you think
mafia.
Joseph Kennedy got popular? He was a bootlegger. That's essentially why they took out Kennedy. But like the real reason they
You're a
kind of took out
bootlegger.
Kennedy was Kennedy wanted to enable a
He wanted to
silver.
Ron. He wanted to Ron Paul the system, dog.
Yeah, he wanted to change over from the instead of Federal Reserve notes, he wanted to change it over to silver notes. I think
Mm.
they tried to do something similar in the 1890s. I think it was called the Species Act, where even back then in the 1800s, like during the Civil War and shit, they needed to get it funded,
Wait,
right?
so if we changed over to silver notes, you and I, we would be like millionaires, wouldn't we, today?
Yeah, but like in the history of money and currency and stuff like that, the 1800s, you had the gold standard, but then you had it, the Democrats
Damn
back then.
it! Get the fuck off me, Mitch. Fuck.
But
Sorry,
in
dude.
the 1890s or whatnot, they had a bunch of gold-backed currency. Well, the Democrats wanted to create more government programs and shit like that. Well, the only way they could do that is they wanted to add silver into the gold kind of thing. Like they're like, oh,
Yes.
well, we can also use silver as tender.
Oh, so they wanted to mix it together, dog.
They didn't want to mix it together. They wanted to use both, but that would
Oh,
just create more inflation, right? Because they're
oh,
expanding the money supply back
yeah,
then.
yeah. Damn this inflation shit, dude.
Dude, I went to Aldi and I usually get Alfredo. Like they got this. It's not really organic or anything like that, but it's like home style shit.
Yeah.
Dude, 6 months ago, this Alfredo sauce was like $2.89, I think, for like one jar, right?
Now it's $5.
$7, dude.
Oh shit.
$7 for one jar of this Alfredo
Oh,
shit.
dude.
And that was just like it was like 6.99, so that didn't even include tax. So it was probably like another 50 cents.
Yeah.
So like
Wow.
7.50 for just a regular jar of Alfredo and shit at Aldi. And I'm like, where's the RC cola and shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But dude, like I even went up to the cashier and I asked the cashier, I was like, is that like a typo? And she goes, no, like we've had a lot of people start returning items because they'll buy it and then they go home and see the grocery bill, kind of like start itemizing it, and then they'll bring it back because it's too expensive.
Oh
So
my
like,
gosh, dude.
yeah, and she's like, you're not the only one. I was like, holy shit, are you kidding me? I was like 6 months ago, that was like 289. And my roommate was saying that it's probably got a lot of eggs in it and shit. I was like, well, fuck. Yeah,
But you know what? The Biden
$7.
administration will tell you that everything's okay.
It is, but that's just it. It's all falling apart and shit, and they got to control the narrative.
It is not okay.
No,
It's not okay.
no.
They want you to believe that 2 + 2 is 5. And believe me, dog, the more of this stupid shit keeps going on, I'm gonna start believing that 2 + 2 is 5.
Yeah, well, get a bug out bag. That's all I had been doing. I just every month now I go through my bug out bag because I'm just ready. I'm ready for anything to happen.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the aliens to pop up from the street and shit, and Tom
How many
Cruise
how
saves
many
us.
batteries you got, dog?
I got a shit ton of batteries.
Attaboy. Attaboy. How
Shit
many
ton of
how many
shit ton
meals
of
you got?
ammo.
How
Huh?
many meals you got? Those MREs. Meals ready
I
to
don't.
eat, dog.
I ain't fucking with them MREs. I got
Uh,
canned goods and stuff like that. I got
yeah,
about a
you don't
good
want to fuck with those, dude, because
shit your
you
brains
eat
up.
it. No, 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 no. You won't shit your brains out. You'll get packed in pretty tight, and then when it comes time to do the deed, it'll hurt like a mofo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
shitting out a
dog.
brick.
Yeah, dog.
That's just it. Yeah, I was thinking about buying some MREs, but I'm like, nah, I'll just get some canned goods and stuff like that. So I got
Yeah,
about
canned goods. Yeah,
yeah,
some
I got
beanie
about a month.
weenies. Beanie weenies. Get yourself a water heater. Some ramen noodles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
I just got some stuff where I can add water to it and stuff.
yeah, a lot of salt, dude. Need a lot of salt.
Yeah, I
You're gonna
got
be
salt,
moving around
pepper,
on foot.
basil.
If you're gonna be moving around on foot, you're gonna need it, dog. Gonna need it.
Yeah, get a couple of protein bars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dog.
But no, like
Got-
every month I've been going through my bug out bag and shit, and I remember everyone making fun of me and shit because I had like this storage room where I had like water and my bug out bag and shit like that, and
Mhm.
everybody be like, "Oh yeah, Dylan, go show him your bunker and shit." Guess what? When COVID hit, everybody's calling me up like your brother and shit.
Yeah.
Hey, you got any extra toilet paper? Not for you, bitch. Click. But that's just it. Like it, because I could clearly see how people react. Humans are dumb as shit. They wait till the last minute, and then once a crisis hits, they all freak out. Like, and I don't want to say it's primarily white people. I've noticed that'll never happen, and then it happens, and it's like, oh my god, it happened.
People get complacent with their lifestyle.
Right, because people just want their Netflix and their fucking Mountain Dew.
And then people that prepare are looked at like they're crazy
Mm-hmm.
and they're conspiracy theorists and they're
Right.
psychos and they're gonna eat you.
Well, I was raised Mormon and shit, and the way that we were raised was like you always have we called it a 72-hour bag. Like if there's an accident, you keep one in your car and you keep one at home. Like if you need to bug out and just go somewhere, like the history of the Mormons, like other than like African American prejudice and stuff like that, like Mormons history wise were prosecuted. They were murdered and slaughtered.
Yeah.
Um in Illinois and Zion, like I can't remember the exact number, but like something like 20,000 Mormons moved to Zion, Illinois, created a whole entire town and
Mm-hmm.
shit like that. Their own personal town, had everything, all the amenities.
Yeah.
And then the townsfolk ran them out and murdered and slaughtered them all. That's why they moved out to Utah. So like tarred and feathered and shit like that.
So
Yeah.
how long ago did the Mormons live in Illinois? Was this in the 1800s?
Yeah. 1800s, something like that.
And for pardon me, but um for being a
Zion.
Zion.
Yeah, Zion.
So
And not the one from the Matrix where everybody's like dancing and shit. That wasn't
are
it.
there like really strict guidelines?
Yeah, no fun.
Like
No
like
caffeine, no alcohol, no stimulants. No, I don't even think you can drink coffee
why?
because your body is perceived to be a temple, so you have to keep it pure.
Oh, so organic. They believe in
Yeah,
being
yeah.
organic.
Well, that's why it never worked out for me because I was just like, oh, you mean no fun and shit? Like I'm 18
Yeah.
years old, man. I'm trying to get down.
Yeah, dog. Yeah.
But no, like ever since being Mormon and shit like that, my parents have a, pantry. Everybody should have a pantry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have some food stored because you never know when you're going to lose your job. You can lose your job just like that. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, shit, got no food. At least a pantry, you can like weather the storm a little bit. But no, just everybody should have a bug out bag and shit like that. Guess what? Conspiracy Dylan was right. So fuck everybody.
I feel like a lot of these conspiracy theories have just come true, dog.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's think of one that hasn't come true. Can you think of
Elvis
one?
is dead.
Tupac is Tupac is dead.
Yeah, Tupac is dead. I thought he was living in. Didn't somebody like find
I
him in
thought he's in
Bali or some
Cuba,
shit?
dog. Isn't he in
Yeah,
Cuba?
Cuba
Thought
or
he was in
Jamaica, something
Cuba.
like that.
Yeah, something like that,
Dominican
dog.
Republic.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Well, it'd
Keep.
be like 55.
Yeah, yeah,
But other than that, no, like everybody should just be prepared for shit. Everybody should have a an emergency bag with like a lighter, a couple of lighters, a flashlight. You know what I mean? Because if
yeah.
you were in Ohio and all of a sudden like that shit explodes and they're like, "Oh, don't worry," where do you think I would have been? I would have been in my car fucking driving with my bug out bag and shit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
uh-huh.
Yep. Yeah, no time to waste. You could just get in and go.
Yeah, it'll be just like
Beat traffic, dog. You beat the traffic.
yeah, well, you want to stay off the main highways because the main highways will shut down and gridlock and shit, and then people will start running out of gas, and then they'll just clog up and shit like that, and then
You know
people
what's
will try
funny
to
about
take,
that? You know what's funny
huh?
about that? You're not the only one that knows that.
Yeah.
So you're fucked either way, bud.
But no, that's just it. I even got road maps for all the side streets and shit like
You're
that.
gonna have to get
I got
out.
my getaway.
You're gonna have to get out and do a little land nav through the rough terrain.
Yeah. Well, the best thing you can
You
do is
might
get
have to
away
set up a tent or something, but you gotta get a good amount of distance away from
from
the chem.
society.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, but mainly the chemicals.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like we were talking before about the fire sale kind of idea where they did it in Die Hard 3, or no, Die
Mhm.
Hard 4, where the hacker took over the United States like financial system, but essentially it's three stages where you take down the transportation, all the lights turn green, so everybody
Mhm.
just T-bones each other.
Yep.
Then you take down the financial system. No money can get any money, so you can't buy any goods, so you have to steal it. So it's just anarchy and shit, right?
Yep.
And then the communication system, and then the other one or last one is the utilities. You take out the utilities, but the
Yep.
utilities are hardwired into certain pressure points within the economy. Kind of like how Texas got like an inch of snow and the whole grid shut down. And
Yeah.
Oakland recently just had a
Oh
big giant
yes, that's right.
power outage.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like Oakland. So like the worst cities in the world are now going blackout. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah, and then back in Texas, back in Austin, they had like some Fast and Furious shit happening,
Yep.
and it got
Cops can do
crazy as
nothing.
hell, dude. Yeah, the cops couldn't do nothing, dude. They were
Yeah,
getting
because it's
backed up
liberal
down
as
the
shit.
road.
I went to Austin last year, and Austin is a cool city, but dude, like, if you want to see a two-tier society, go to Austin. Like, I've never seen so many Teslas and homeless people in all my life. Like, it was just sad as shit because at the same time, there's just homeless people everywhere.
Yeah.
We went down there for a bachelor party. There was a homeless guy fighting himself and shit in the playground, just like digging in the dirt and shit. It's like, dude, like it's a wasteland almost. I've been to
What's
LA
the
and shit. Huh?
what's the population of Austin? Do you know by any chance off your head?
100,000 liberals and one fucking common sense person. That's about it.
Yeah.
Austin's a cool, fun city and stuff to travel to, but it's like, dude, it's fucking pretty. It's got its scummy places and shit. Like,
Yeah.
joke.
I bet. Yeah.
You'll see like a Tesla, 10 Teslas in a row, and then all of a sudden you'll see like a whole fucking homeless, like,
Encampment.
yeah, in a giant parking lot. And I'm talking about like a huge parking lot. Like, there's
Yeah, like
just
a
fucking tents
Walmart
everywhere.
parking lot.
Like a Walmart parking lot. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And underneath every single overpass is just homeless people and
Yeah.
homelessness. But yeah, Austin is fucked. It's liberal as shit, but at the same time it's a cool city, but like I've been to LA and that was a shithole.
Oh yeah.
I went there
Same
during
sort of thing. It's like they got like blocks of homeless
oh
encampments there.
yeah, I went to Pasadena during COVID and all along the highway, and that's when the wildfires were going on.
Yeah.
So it was just like black smoke everywhere. It looked like shit out of Mad Max, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, well, hopefully they don't figure out I'm from Milwaukee.
There's like a haze in the horizon.
Yeah. I was like, I might have to kick somebody's ass before they kick mine. But I was almost like Adam Sandler and shit, dumping out the garbage. Here, eat that. Leave me alone. But yeah, it's like Oakland went blackout. And now just imagine if like New York or the whole Eastern Seaboard went blackout again. I think it happened in 2003 that happened. There's a big giant blackout, and
Mhm.
it's just like New York is already collapsed during COVID when they're shutting everything down and they're robbing everything and shit. Just
Mhm.
imagine if everything went dark and being trapped in like the subways and it would. I just watched a movie
All
the other
the
day.
all the groceries that stores would all the
Go
food that
bad,
stores would have to get rid of.
right? It'd be 3 days until all hell would break loose in New York.
Just
Like
imagine how like the madness you would see, like people like at the dumpsters like fighting and killing each other just to get food.
fighting over fingernails and shit,
Yeah, dude. Insane.
fingernail clippings. But yeah, I mean, when I saw that shit in Oakland, I'm like, up here we go. They're
Hmm.
taking out the power grids. They're taking out the major cities, and it it doesn't take long to destroy America. All you got to do is just take out the power systems, no sewage, and then all of a sudden the disease will start to go rampant and shit like that. Think of all the rats in New York. You know what I mean?
Think of all the beached whales, dog. There's another beached whale
Where?
in Jersey.
Oh,
Happened again, dog. They just keep dying.
yeah, it's probably like a mass die-off. Poison the shit out of the oceans with all the plastic. You got pulling straws out of turtles' nose because they're all cokeheads.
Poor turtles, dog.
Yeah. Those jellyfish or the turtles eat plastic bags and shit, thinking they're jellyfish, and then they're all dying. Way to go. If anything, why are we fighting in Ukraine? We should be getting rid of all the plastic bags in this country and shit.
We should be fixing the railroad infrastructure. That's for sure.
Well, yeah. Well, you can blame that on corporate greed and government corruption and shit.
What
More
about Pete?
profit.
What about Pete Buttigieg? Judge?
Yeah, he's useless.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, look here, everything's
He had
fine and
longer
safe. Just
maternity leave than my wife.
Well, yeah, that's just it, man. It's called special rights for being gay, dude.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, we just need to hurry up and get like screw Nikki Haley, screw DeSantis or whatnot. Let's just get a Mongolian lesbian for president, and I think we'll be like at the end of the road on presidents and shit. Like we can't get anywhere else with that kind of crap.
Yeah.
Maybe a leprechaun
But you know what? That
or a little person.
Corinne Jean Claude Van Damme Pierre, she said that something about their administration is the most diverse administration in presidential history when it makes it the best administration when she's just really fucking stupid.
Yeah, I can't
That
stand her.
whole
She's like always,
administration is fucking stupid. Their economists are fucking stupid. Janet Yellen's fucking stupid. Who else
dude.
is fucking that BlackRock economist guy? He's fucking
Yeah,
just as stupid.
it's literally like a box of Crayola crayons and shit. That's all it is.
All they do is they just go on TV and just spread lies. They just
Hmm.
lie right to your face. They don't give two shits. They're collecting paychecks on behalf of your taxpayer money.
And they're
And
letting the large corporations rape you, overtax you. Yeah, inflation is killing you.
yep,
The medical system, the pharmaceutical mafia is killing you. You
yeah.
can't get anything. It's all going to shit. I've been
And it's
saying this
not
for
about
years.
sticking up for the people. It's not about sticking up for the American taxpayer. It's
No.
about what kind of fucking bullshit can we push through to make sure that our big name sponsors and lobbyists get the money that they quote unquote deserve, which they don't deserve shit.
Hmm.
What lies can we spread today?
Well, the same thing happened in the 1930s during the Great Depression, where all the mom and pop shops got wiped out and the large corporations merged with the government in order to survive. And not only survive, but to get out of the Great Depression, there has to be a reset. World wars always create a reset because they can create new currency to fund that war, and then they pay off those debts by conquering the new land,
Well,
right?
if this is what it's gonna be, there isn't gonna be no reset. It's just gonna be pure destruction.
Right. But in order to
There ain't no
first to
coming
build,
back
you have
from
to
this,
first
dog.
destroy.
There is no coming back from this, dog.
No, it's already too far.
This is the end of civilization, dude.
Right.
And it's all
Well, that's
because of
just it.
Joe Biden's corrupt bitch ass. Ain't that a bitch?
Yeah.
Ain't
And
that a
that's just
bitch?
it.
Hunter, you
Yeah, it
stupid fuck. This
is.
is all your fault, you son of a bitch.
But that's just it, though. They'll allow it to deteriorate and just keep trying to kick the can down the road until they finally can't, and then they'll just pull the plug, let everybody kill each other or just eat each other alive,
Dylan, can you move to the
and
side
then
for a
they'll come out
second?
with a
Can you move to
solution.
the side for a second? I want to show our listeners, our viewers, who's responsible for this fucking bullshit, for the reason why our civilization is going to burn to the ground. There he is right there. He is the reason.
How you fall asleep smoking crack?
And this idiot right here, this guy right here, he supports it.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking idiots, dude. Morons.
He looks like he sucked on a lemon or some shit.
Yeah. I just want to grab him by the bottom of his fucking turkey neck and just
Well,
shake him and be like, "What the fuck are you doing, you idiot?"
well, that's just it. And then they'll finally retire like Pelosi and sail off into the sunset, being 100 millionaires and shit like that, while the rest of us die.
Yeah, we
There was a
die.
good show on Vice TV on Hulu, I think. Yeah, on Hulu. It's called While the Rest of Us Die. It's got 2 seasons on it. It's pretty good. Just talks about like all the government conspiracies and like how the government's literally like trying to kill people. Look how they reacted to Hurricane Katrina and shit. But that was part of like people in New Orleans' own stupidity, right? Those levees were like 70 years old, but you have that typical herd mentality where it's like, oh, that'll never happen.
Yeah.
They've survived for 70 years. You had like weeks to get out of hurricane or to get out of New Orleans, but so many people in New Orleans are so poor they can't do it, so it just wiped them all out and shit, you know. And
Mhm.
then instead of the government sending people in there to help them like FEMA, they just put them in these asbestos-filled trailers, and then they sent in snipers to shoot looters, and they're just shooting anybody, you know. It
Yep.
was complete chaos. George Bush does not like black people. Remember that with Kanye? The look on
Yeah,
Mike
dog.
Myers' face is like, "Oh,
It got it
behave."
got it got awkward pretty quick there. What did
Yeah,
he
Mike
say?
Myers is
George Bush hates black people.
Mike Myers just looked at him
Yeah,
like,
it's like
"No, Kanye, I was gonna ask you to be in Austin Powers 4, but I don't think that's gonna happen." Or Shrek. But yeah, that's just like that's always the government's response to any ordeal is just like shoot anybody, don't ask questions because it's like fuck them.
There are signs that are popping up in Moscow that are saying that the Russian border ends nowhere, dog.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. That's American propaganda and shit. I
Is
mean,
it though? Is it though?
yeah, I mean, that's just it. America wants to try to go to war because they want to distract everybody. It's the only mass psyop that you can do throughout history to reset the system. There's always a boogeyman and shit. But like I said,
There's dude, I'm just reading this tweet. It's from this guy. It's called um Dov Highkind, former New York State Assemblyman, founder at Americans AA, forever a proud Jewish American and staunch supporter of Israel. He says that Biden caught on a damning hot mic in Poland after commenting on 3 UFOs shot down. Biden, you think any of those guys bought that bullshit? And the aide says, totally, Biden. Don't buy anything. Let's get out of here.
is that what he said? Let's get out of here.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Well, let's see here. There's another metal manufacturing plant that blew up in Ohio.
yeah. Mass casualty incident after a multiple massive explosion has occurred at a metal manufacturing plant, Bedford, Ohio. Currently, multiple authorities and emergency crews are battling a massive fire at a metal manufacturing plant, Bedford, Ohio, with multiple large explosions taking place. Police are reporting that 12 plus people have been severely burned and debris Scattered everywhere with smoke can be seen for miles away. Dude, let's just hope that shit's not blowing our way. I mean, if you're gonna cook, I mean, gosh, dude.
When in all throughout our history, I'll be 35, you're 35. When out of our whole entire life now, have you ever heard of a bunch of meat plants blowing up, chemical trains blowing up, and now the food disruption, high inflation? The government and the Weimar Republic did the same thing.
You never did. You never did.
No, but
Not in
this is
our
like
lifetime. Not in our lifetime.
no, but this is what I'm saying is like this is the beginning stages of hyperinflation where the German government in the Weimar Republic 1920s would literally try to create false flag attacks on its own American or German people in order to justify the higher prices. And that's what's going on now too. Oh, well, the Tyson food chicken patty plant blew up. So now all chicken nuggets got to go to $10 a nugget, you know.
Hey, Donald Trump addresses Florida supporters. This is what he says. Nuclear is so devastating that we don't even want to talk about it. You have two N words, neither which should ever be mentioned. Do you know what the other N word is?
Oh, what?
Come on, dude. You know what it is.
What did he say? There's two
He
N-words
said, all right, hold on. Nuclear is so devastating that we don't even want to talk about it. You have two N words, neither which should ever be mentioned.
Yeah, no, I get it. But that's Trump though. Like Trump would always crack me up because he would always talk about the problem, just not like solve the problem and shit. Like, this shit never happened under me, and it's like, okay, yeah, I get that. Like the whole entire war thing under Trump. Like, Trump didn't start any wars, and I'm like, right, but he didn't fucking end any.
Mm-hmm. Project Veritas is going to be losing a lot of followers.
Yeah, didn't the CEO George
Yeah,
O'Keefe or
yeah,
whatever?
he quit. Yep, he's leaving. He's going to go start fresh somewhere else.
Why?
Take care.
Because didn't he start that company?
Yeah, he did.
So why? I mean, this is America. It amazes me how you can get shit kicked out of your own company, kind of like the Men's Warehouse guy. They're like
Mm-hmm.
Papa John's. Now it's just John.
Yep.
But that's just it. Like, how did you got to be like? I don't understand how a board can kick you out and shit from your own shit. Like, wait a minute here. I started it.
This is from Joe Biden at about 7 o'clock this morning. 1 year later, Kyiv stands, Ukraine stands, democracy stands, America and the world stands with Ukraine. Dude, I don't think so, man. That shit's
Well,
getting old and sour.
all I'm saying is get ready because shit's gonna hit the fan. You like keep saying you think it's bad now. It's gonna keep getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
Now just wait till the recession hits and people start getting laid off and shit. You're gonna have people start capping their bosses and shit like that. And it's just this is where bring up history again. This is where you had it similar to the 1930s where everybody was poor and shit, but like there were still rich people, really rich people, and they're just kind of like, well, why am I getting kicked out of my house? Well, this rich asshole who's been committing crime this whole entire time, why is he still, you know what I mean, an
Yep.
influence?
Oh, Putin's supposed to be giving a speech on the 21st, right? So, well, it's tomorrow for us, so it's probably today for them, for Russia.
Well, they'll just keep spending taxpayer money because they don't give a shit,
Mm-hmm.
So I say, instead of constantly voting for the system to keep going, why don't if just imagine if everybody just stopped voting for the president?
Here, you want to hear something pretty, something I agree with?
Hmm.
Only mental illness would cause a man to cry for joy at the idea of chopping his own dick off.
Yeah,
That's from
true
Sarah.
that.
That's from Sarah Gonzalez on Twitter. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, where can everybody find us at, Dylan?
Well, you can always find us at Twitter, truth_over_facts podcast, Twitter. And then you can also email us at truthoverfactspodcast@gmail.com. And you can also check us out on YouTube on Truth Over Facts Podcast.
I got breaking news here from Mario Nawfall on Twitter. He is no bias, no echo chamber, host at the roundtable.club. He says that Dutch intelligence claims Russia is preparing to attack oil and gas pipelines, submarine cables, and wind farms in the North Sea. If true, this is a serious Russian escalation, possibly a response to all the weapons being sent to Ukraine by NATO.
Well, China is backing up Russia with arms, probably like AK-47s and shit like that. But America declared war the minute they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. That is an
Mm-hmm.
act of war. That would be the equivalent of Mexico blowing up, you know, our some shit. You know what I mean? Blowing
Yeah.
up the south border wall or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a declaration of war, but that's how America always is. America keeps kicking, kicking, kicking until they get punched in the face, and then we play victim, and then we go in there guns blazing and shit.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where I'm saying like it's not gonna work this time, is because in the fourth turning, there's so much debt saturation to the point where like it can't fund itself anymore. Like in the war in Iraq,
Yeah.
20 years we spent like $5 trillion, $10 trillion, but the Pentagon was just using all these slush funds and shell companies and shit to cycle all this money through. But they'll the U.S. government will do another false flag attack similar to that to see if they can get away with blaming another person for it, right? Or another country like Russia and shit like
Mm-hmm.
that. Remember Hillary Clinton? They've had a boner for fucking Russia for the last 7 years with Hillary
She
Clinton.
loves Russia. She
Yeah,
loves Russia so much.
yeah. And didn't they sell like uranium to Russia, or like a
Mm-hmm.
quarter of our 20% of our uranium to Iran in a
Mm-hmm.
backdoor deal? And that's just it. They make money on the way up, they make money on the way bottom. But there's so much information now that, I wouldn't be surprised if the government tried to use a kill switch on the internet and shit. But you even saw it where the government had operatives in Twitter and shit like that, and all these different social media companies where they're trying to withhold information to propagate their narrative, and it's not
Ooh.
working.
Ooh, dog, dog, dog. We might have voter some voter theft going on here.
Hmm.
This is from CanCon. Um, San Joaquin Sheriff discoveries regarding their voter rolls. 93 people registered with birth date of 1850. 232 registered at local prisons. 4,144 voters registered over the age of 90. There's only 10.10, well, a little over 10,000 residents over 80 in that county. This number would drop off significantly at 90. 125 registered to a nonprofit NGO or business, 300 voters with no first name, 110 potential double voters, same name, date of birth, and address, but different voter ID numbers. People registered at various homeless shelters, and one voter registered name. Yeah, dog. Pretty crazy
Voter ID's
stuff.
been going, or voter fraud has been going on for decades.
Mm-hmm.
It's no biggie. That's why nobody even believes in the voting system, which is me being the type of person that I am. I'm like, good. Like, why would you ever think like voting was actually counted? If your vote actually counted, they wouldn't allow you to do it.
Trump says today that As president, he will have DOJ and DOE take over school discipline of students. Well, I thought they want to get rid of the Department of Education.
Yeah,
Well,
they did, and then like Rick Perry wanted to get rid of the Department of Energy and shit, and he didn't even know what it was.
when troubled youth are going wild, we will stop it. The consequences are swift, certain, and strong, and they will know that. Okay.
Well, just like a Betsy DeVos when she was department or head of education, her brother was Eric Prince from Blackwater.
Yes. Former Navy SEAL.
Yep. And that's just it. It's a big club and you're not invited. And it'll just continue to deteriorate. You're in the end stages of like ancient Rome where the decay of society and the cities and the
I believe
politicians.
I believe he's still in well, you know what? He may have sold it off, but
Yeah, I think
he
he sold it
started
up.
Blackwater and then it became a different name. But I don't know if he's still with that organization or not. But I thought
No, I
about
think,
I thought about trying to get into that when I was
yeah,
got out of the
private
military.
contractor.
Yeah.
Yeah, they pay good money and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's just the need to know basis. You're expendable kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just it. Like, they're hired mercenaries, is all they are.
Yeah.
But then America turns around and plays victim, like, oh, Russia hired mercenaries and shit like that. It's like we do the same thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm so sick and tired of America's bullshit, where it's just like they can't even. It's like telling a Dr. Seuss story and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody even believes this shit no more, and it's just like it's so blatant, and they just don't care.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a bunch of sociopaths.
Oh
But that's what I
man.
mean. Like, get ready because they're gonna try to take out a big giant food supply plant or some shit like that, or they're gonna try to poison it even more,
Well, that's
and
what
then
they're
they'll try to
doing, dude, with all this chemical plant destruction and all this other crap, dude.
right. But that's what I mean is like
All these fires, all these derailments.
the government is just trying to
You know, they
mass
they try to make it seem like, it's not a big deal. Oh, well, these derailments happen more often than not. Yeah, but do these derailments whenever they happen, do they tip over and uh make a big chemical spill and cause, vegetation and animal
cause
life to
bald eagles to
die?
really go bald.
Yeah.
But that's just it. It's like so blatant, you know. We keep spending money on things instead of the infrastructure and shit like that. But it's just a continuation of president after president. The president don't run shit.
Hmm.
I always recommend people watch the movie Network, made in like 1974 or some shit like that, 75.
Oh, yeah, dog.
It explains how the system works back then. That like it's not a new world order. It's just a one world corporation where the telecommunication companies, the
Hmm.
media companies, the banks, the financial system, it all just works as a big giant control mechanism of fear. Pharmaceutical companies, right?
Yeah. You
You
got
got to get
anything?
mad.
You got anything you want to get out of the way on the finance side of things, dog?
The yield curve hasn't been this inverted since 1981. So for our listeners, a little history lesson. Um, The 1981 recession was the worst recession since the Great Depression at that time. So it's going to be really, really fucking bad, like this recession, and it's going to be really, really deep. But they can't raise interest rates up to like 10% because at $30 trillion, $32 trillion at 10%, think about it.
Hmm.
The whole system would fucking implode.
Yeah.
The the average monthly payment for a car now is $800, and that's not including insurance.
That's insane.
Right.
Is that for a new car?
That's just the average car payment. It could be a shit car.
Dude,
It
dude,
could be
that's
subprime.
terrible. That is
Yeah.
terrible.
It
That's
could be
rent to some people.
right, but that's what I mean. I remember when I was telling you like the One lady that I was talking to at the bar for like real estate, and she's like, "Oh, the lending standards aren't that bad." I said, "They're even worse. How are all these people getting all these loans and shit?" Well, now they're all running it through their savings. Credit card just topped $1 trillion. Credit card debt just topped $1 trillion, I
Mhm.
think. You saw something very similar right before the Great Depression, where like there was just so much fucking debt, and then they raised interest rates. Not even a lot, but it doesn't matter. It just matters like there's more debt than you can service it, right?
Yeah.
So in the late 1970s, early 80s, the banking system went insolvent because America loaned out a bunch of money to South America countries.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, we started raising interest rates all the way up to the federal funds rate, which is where the banks loan to one another and stuff. That went to like 16 to 15%. And that's only when our debt was at, I think, maybe $1 trillion on
Hmm.
our national debt. So everything started to implode with just 1 trillion. Now we're at 32 trillion.
Yeah.
So that's why they have to create a crisis, either domestic or international, so big that the Federal Reserve can go back in there and buy up all these bonds to push interest rates down. That way the government can fund itself.
Speaking of
But if
crisis, it sounds like Amazon might be in a little bit of crisis. From
Amazon,
Market Watch, yeah, it says Amazon's corporate employees may pay the price of falling share prices with reduced compensation.
well, I had this conversation back in 2019
Mm-hmm.
when I was going to community college with my supply chain
Yeah,
professor. He was a
yeah.
big ass kisser of Trump and shit like that. He was
Mm-hmm.
like talking about FoxxCon. Us people in Wisconsin, we had that exactly what it was, a con
Yes.
job, FoxCon.
That was a big Scott. That was Scott Walker's exit
Baby.
ticket.
Yeah.
Yes.
And everybody realized that he's getting kickbacks, so we kicked his ass out, and then we got
Mm-hmm.
shitty Tony Evers kind of crap.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was in class, and to bring up Amazon, I said to my professor, I said, for the last 20 years, you've had interest rates at zero, if not negative, which allows companies like Amazon to thrive because Amazon doesn't make a profit. And there was a kid in my class who goes, "What do you mean Amazon doesn't make a profit?" I said, "Amazon doesn't make a profit." I said, "Have you ever bought something off of Amazon for like 30 bucks and it broke or something like that and you listed it and said, 'Hey, I want to ship it back,' and they say, 'Just keep it, we'll send you another one,'
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to pay the shipping.
Yeah.
They lose money on that shipping, but they
Oh.
make it up by sheer volume, right? So like your subscription for Amazon Prime, it used to be like $100. Now it's 140, right?
Mm-hmm.
But telling my professor, I said, well, Amazon is like a megalodon, like a lot of these zombie companies. They're not really zombie companies. They're just Amazon only can grow by consuming companies, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it consumed Whole Foods. Remember that Whole
Yes.
Foods? It was that whole deal went to shit, right?
Yeah.
They're losing money at Whole Foods and stuff. But like I told my professor in the class, because I was like always jabbing at my professor about Foxconn, I was like, it's gonna go bust. It's a shit deal. Dylan, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, all right, shithead. A
Yeah.
year later, I sent him an email being a smartass when I was drunk or some shit like that, saying like, "Hey, what do I win?"
Mm-hmm.
But I told the professor and the kids in the class and the other people in class that to explain Amazon, I'll explain it in a way that I think everybody in the class will understand. Amazon is like the megalodon. It's a big giant shark, prehistoric
Mm-hmm.
shark.
Yeah.
And I said to my professor that the megalodon got so big was because it had to attack food its size, if not bigger, right? Like giant whales and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because the bigger it got, the more food it would burn, more energy it would burn. So it just had to keep consuming bigger and larger animals. Well, eventually it ate out its whole entire ecosystem where no large animals were left, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that's similar to Amazon. It just has to keep growing and growing and growing until it can't consume no more. So it just dies, right?
Mm-hmm.
kills all of its predators and stuff like that. It's food source, it's prey. So I said the smart thing to do for the megalodon was to realize that it can't keep consuming larger and larger animals. It has to start starving itself so it can get smaller and quicker to catch smaller food,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And I said, but eventually, if it doesn't recognize that, it'll just eat itself to death, right? It'll
Yeah.
just eat out its whole entire food supply. And the whole entire class is kind of like, okay, I kind of get it. And I said, but here's the kicker, though. That'll never happen because right above the sea, there's a fishing boat that just keeps throwing chum in the water to
Mm-hmm.
feed the megalodon. And I said, the fishing boat is the government. And my professor is like, that's like one of the craziest analogies I've ever heard, but it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And he goes, why is there a fishing boat? Like, why is the government the fishing boat? I said, because every single person in this room buys shit off of Amazon. It
Mm-hmm.
collects millions of bits of bytes of data on each and every single person. So essentially, Amazon has become a utility where every single American uses Amazon to a point like the government will bail it out in order to collect that data on you because it can create a profile on you.
Mm-hmm.
And my professor just kind of like, all right, that kind of makes sense and shit like that. But a couple of kids in the classroom were like, really? Amazon doesn't make a profit? I said, it probably does, but it's been in business for almost 30 years. I think it started in 94. So like 20 years, 25 years it's been in business and it hasn't made a profit. They can't exist,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you have to eventually make a profit like Snapchat. Snapchat will probably go bankrupt. Uber doesn't make a profit. How can something be in business for 20 years or 10 years and not make a profit? Well, it just keeps buying up debt. It just keeps going further and further into a debt. And then the interest rates go up and they all start going bankrupt overnight. Kind of like
Mm-hmm.
Enron.
Yeah.
Remember, Enron used to be like the number one energy company in the world, and then it went bankrupt, and everybody's like, "Well, how did that happen?" They were cooking the
Uh,
books.
yeah, and they couldn't do controlled blackouts anymore.
Yeah, in California.
People caught on to it.
Yep, the smartest guys in the room. So a
Mm-hmm.
good documentary. I just watched that a couple months ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, telling my professor, I'm like the professor in that class. I'm like, there you go, bitch. I was like, there you go, Dean. His name was Dean. Real nice guy and shit like that. But he was just kind of a smart ass.
Yeah.
He's just kind of like, Dylan, you don't know what you're talking about with FoxxCon. I was like, well, let's break down some of the math here. I said, it's a shit deal to begin with. They pulled out numerous times out of different states. Pennsylvania, I used as one example. I told the people in the class that FoxxCon made it such horrible conditions that people used to do suicide. So they would put netting
Mm-hmm.
outside of the building of FoxCon and like China and shit because people would be jumping out of the window and
Yep.
shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, but besides that, let's go over the numbers. So I said it's a $10 billion deal with $4 billion in taxpayer subsidies. Okay, so for all the people in the classroom who don't know what a government subsidy is, it's a tax break. Well, a tax break needs to be made up somehow. So that already tells you that the taxes in Wisconsin are too high for an actual company like that to actually get funding for itself. So it's a $10 billion deal with $4 billion of government subsidies. That comes from every single person in this room who has a job paying taxes in some way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I said, so now you have to make up that 60 cents. We're already paying for 40 cents, right? 10 billion, we'll turn that into like $10, okay, to make the math easier, everybody. So you're paying $4 to get $10. Okay, so you're in all retrospect, you're only making $6, right? Everybody's still with me? And everybody's like,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
said,
sure.
okay, so that remaining $6, that only works for the people actually getting jobs at FoxxCon. If you don't have a job at FoxxCon, you just lost $10, right? Does that make
Yeah.
sense? And everybody in the classroom's kind of like, okay, but my professor at the time, Dean, he was analysis, like a supply chain analyst.
Mm.
And he was just kind of like in denial about it. He goes, "That's not how it works." I was like, "Well, it's a fucking simple math problem, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's a $10 billion deal. Taxpayers are paying $4 or $4 billion to get $10 billion, but you're actually getting $6 billion. And the only way you're going to get $6 billion is if you actually work there.
Yeah.
So if I'm not working there, I'm losing $10. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and he's just kind of like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But he's like, you're a fucking shithead, Dylan. Sit back down, you know. But me and him had good debates and stuff like that. But at the same time, I just sit in the back of the class, just listening to him bullshit, and I'm just like, you're brainwashing these fucking poor kids, you know.
Yeah.
But that was like in right before COVID hit. That was like September, the back half of 2019. But I was telling everybody in the classroom, like, I don't want to warn anybody, but like, there's something big coming down the pipeline. And a couple of the kids, after I had my lectures and shit and debates, they're kind of like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I'm paying attention to the bond market, and the bond market is like something big, a financial crisis is coming."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "I'm at the time I was like 29, I think, because this was a couple of years ago. I was 29, and I was only 20 years old when the financial crisis hit, but I was paying attention to the bond market, and the bond market blew up in September 2019, called the repo market, to where like
Mm-hmm.
it's like a pawn shop for hedge funds and banks and shit. So I could kind of see that something was coming down the pipeline, and like I was telling people in my class, like, "Oh yeah, you think it's fucking bad now? Like everything's going good right now? Just wait,
Mm-hmm.
something's gonna blow up, like a big company or a big giant hedge fund." Remember when people were protesting in Hong Kong
Yes, I do.
a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Like, well, Hong Kong is like there's New York, London, and then Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are like the three biggest central hubs for finances is New York City, London, and Hong Kong. Well, they're protesting in Hong Kong and shit, and I thought like a giant hedge fund would blow up in Hong Kong, and that would just create a big giant contagion in the financial system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're all interconnected. You know, they all rob Peter to pay Paul kind of thing.
Yeah.
All it is just moving money around the whole world. Once it gets disrupted, the whole thing goes to shit. But I was just paying the attention of the bond market before COVID hit, which is why COVID, everybody knows that something was wrong. They just couldn't know, they didn't realize what it was wrong. And I said, you know, the virus is real, but the excuses aren't, because they had to
Mm-hmm.
bail out all the banks again.
Yeah.
All the big banks were going bust again. And that's why like, how did everybody get all these loans, these PPP loans and, uh, protection, you know, the government spent $10 trillion. Well, who gave all that money out? The banks,
Mm-hmm.
right? No documentation. You know, I just watched a PBS documentary where people in California were just creating fake LLCs and um, fake social security numbers from like dead people and getting millions of dollars and shit like that.
Yeah.
That's why the FBI right now, or the IRS, is trying to collect all that money again from all that fraud, because it was all, half of it was fraud, if
Mm-hmm.
not more, three-quarters of it. If the government printed out or gave out $10 trillion, three-quarters of that was all fraud. That's why you had all these companies going bankrupt, like all these like small mom and pop shops going
Mm-hmm.
bankrupt. But the government, aka the Federal Reserve and BlackRock, were buying Apple bonds, they were buying Berkshire Hathaway, they were buying all these big giant corporations to prop them all up, because the whole system went dead, right? Nobody wanted
Yeah.
to buy them. So if nobody was going to buy their bonds, their interest rates would skyrocket.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to maintain an imaginary buyer. That's why they always say the Federal Reserve is the borrower of last resort, but eventually the Federal Reserve becomes the buyer of last resort.
Mm-hmm.
That's why BlackRock and the Federal Reserve are BlackRock is like the right hand of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
It does its bidding for it
Hmm.
because the Federal Reserve can only loan money out, but the Federal Reserve has their own trading desk too. Or you ever heard of the plunge protection team?
No, I have not, sir.
Okay, here's a little finance for you.
I've heard of the toilet plunger protection team, and that's usually me in my house.
Yeah. The plunge protection team was created in like the 1980s, I think,
Hmm.
in the 87 crash.
Okay.
When the stock market starts losing so many points, it trips circuit breakers where they shut it down and they wait 15 minutes and then they'll start it back up. And if it trips another circuit breaker, they shut it down for like a day, right?
Hmm.
Well, that just scares everybody even more, right?
Yeah.
Because if you got money tied up in the stock market and it's taking a shit like it was during COVID,
Hmm.
I was telling our buddy Ryan and stuff, you think of like 2008 and just studying that, the
Hmm.
biggest point percentage during 2008 was a 700 point drop in one day. I said, watch, you'll have 2,000 point drops because it's just that much more points, right? Just
That's
that much more
exactly what
debt.
was happening. Well, it wasn't that bad in the beginning of COVID. It was like 500 point drops. It
Hmm.
wasn't in the thousands though.
It started to get up there though,
Yeah.
where it was tripping circuit breakers. I mean,
Yeah.
there was one time where it was like 1,200, then the next day was 2,000, and they just had to shut it down.
Hmm.
From the whole entire month of like February, it was just tripping out, just down in blocks. It went from 26,000, I think, or 27,000 on the Dow to 18,000. So, and that was in a month's time. So every week it
Hmm.
was just losing, 1,500 points, 1,000 points here, 500. It was just blowing out. Well, now you're gonna see something similar again, where there's just so much inflation and shit. It's just gonna rode away those points. Like I said, the Dow Jones could be at 50,000, but everybody's sucking on rocks and shit
Hmm.
for water. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's completely detached from reality, is because like all the speculators and all the banks and all the hedge funds could give two shits about anybody on Main Street, right?
Hmm.
This is part of like the fourth turning where like societies in civil decay, but at the same
Gosh,
time
dude,
all
the
the
fourth turning. I just want you to say the fourth kind.
yeah. It's a good book. I highly recommend it.
The fourth turning. Who was it written by?
Neil Howie. I actually have like a little excerpt here. You want to hear a
Yeah,
little?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's hear it.
Where is
Hi,
it?
Hunter.
Got a little notebook.
Ah, yeah, dog. Yeah.
All right, so this is from a book written in 1997. Okay, a couple of historical guys. They are the ones who came up with the term millennials.
Uh-huh.
So here's one right here. Allies launch a preemptive strike. The terrorists threaten to retaliate against an American city. Congress declares war and authorizes unlimited house to house searches. Opponents charge that the president concocted the emergency for political purposes. A nationwide strike is declared. Foreign capital flees the U.S. These are just different scenarios that create that collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, I think there's probably about like three or four of them that they said that could trigger it. The
So when
second
they
one,
say when they say foreign capital leaves the U.S., so that means are they talking about like FoxxCon leaves the U.S.
no, what they mean is like
like
everybody has,
embassies?
like Saudi Arabia has assets over here.
Yeah.
So essentially, they sell all their dollars and buy gold, essentially,
Mm,
right?
okay.
They sell all their assets denominated in dollars, and
Mm-hmm.
then the dollar just drops and it just
Oh.
goes to zero, essentially. Because foreign capital, all financial crises throughout history is just capital fleeing that country.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody can get money to pay off their debts because it's all fleeing, right? It's like a
Mm-hmm.
bank run. It's kind of what 2008 was. 2008 was just a run on the bank by the world. money market funds and capital market funds. Anyways, here's the second thing. An impasse, and this is the scary part. An impasse over the federal budget reaches a stalemate. The president and Congress both refuse to back down, triggering a near total government shutdown. The president declares emergency powers. Congress rescinds his authority. Dollar and bond prices plummet. The president threatens to stop Social Security checks. Congress refuses to raise the debt ceiling. Default looms. Wall Street panics. The third one, this is the kicker. Remember, this is made in 1997, this book.
Yeah.
The Center for Disease Control and Prevention announces the spread of a new communicable virus. The disease reaches densely populated areas, killing some. I highlighted killing some. Congress enacts mandatory quarantine measures. The president orders the National Guard to throw prophylactic cordons around unsafe neighborhoods. Quarantines.
Oh.
Mayors resist. Urban
Well,
gangs battle.
that didn't happen though. The mayors did not resist.
Right.
Fucking suckers.
This is the second part of that. Urban gangs battle suburban militias. Calls mount for the president to declare martial law. Right? We had that going on with Antifa.
Yeah, all the maskers, yes.
Yeah. Because they were burning everything down in Antifa.
Yeah.
You could say that the Proud Boys were the suburban militias and the urban gangs were Antifa.
All the vaccinated people screaming at the unvaccinated people.
Mm-hmm. Here's the fourth part of it, right? It's like 4 points. Growing anarchy throughout the former Soviet republics prompts Russia to conduct training exercises around its borders. Lithuania erupts in civil war. Negotiations break down. U.S. diplomats are captured and publicly taunted. The president airlifts troops to rescue them and orders ships into the Black Sea.
Oh boy.
Iran declares its alliance with Russia. Gold and oil prices. Huh?
Wow.
Yeah. Gold and oil prices soar. Congress debates restoring the draft. This was written in 1997.
Yeah.
Okay, because it always happens in cycles. But at the bottom here, it says kind of like a description of it all. It's highly unlikely that any one of these scenarios will actually happen. What is likely, however, is that the catalyst will unfold according to a basic crisis dynamic that underlies all of these scenarios. An initial spark will trigger a chain reaction of unyielding responses and further emergencies. The core elements of these scenarios involve debt, civil decay, and global disorder.
Train derailments.
Yeah, will matter more than the details, which the catalyst will juxtapose and connect in some unknowable way. If foreign societies are also entering a fourth turning, this could accelerate the chain reaction. At home and abroad, these events will reflect the tearing of the civic fabric at points of extreme vulnerability. Problem areas where, during the unraveling, America will have neglected, denied, or delayed needed action. Anger at mistakes we made will translate into calls for action regardless of the outcome. And that was written in 97.
Yeah, it sounds all too familiar now, dog.
Right. So there's trigger points. That's primarily what the fourth turning is it happens in 80-year cycles. And out of the 80 years, you have 20 years of prosperity, 20 years of kind of like a twilight period where everybody's just kind of okay and stuff like that. Another 20 happens and you can start to see the decay kind of start to pick up speed. And then the last 20, it's all just crisis.
Yeah. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
that's how it
definitely an eye opener, dog, for it being 1997. Are you sure that wasn't written by Miss Cleo? Dow!
Yeah. Yeah, but she got busted, remember?
She did?
Yeah. You don't remember that?
Bullshit, dog.
You don't remember Miss Cleo got busted?
That's my
Call me
chick.
now.
Yeah. Go get your free tarot reading.
Yeah. I see a parrot with a crown. But yeah. Well, let's say we call it a episode.
Yeah, that's
I'm your
gonna have
host.
to do it.
I'm your host, Dylan.
I'm Ronnie. Dill baby, where can they find us again?
You can find us at truth_facts podcast at Twitter. Truth Over Facts podcast at gmail.com for our email. And then Truth Over Facts podcast on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Don't eat
Yeah.
you bitches.
Yeah. Check us out. Good night.
Night night.